Live.
Do we call our daughter Kate Bates?
That's her. That's how she's name.
Like, is that what you call her?
Yeah, Kate Bates.
Yeah.
Like a
we all do in our heads because of the announcements.
Yeah, Kate Bates.
Oh, okay.
Remember when she did the announcements?
Yeah. Kate Bates.
Was that Glenfield or was it High School?
It was
Glenfield, right?
Glenfield. Yeah.
I forgot her song. Like, good morning, like this Kate Bates, like whatever she said. Like I don't think I ever knew her face, but in my house we talked about Kate Bates. That's Kate Bates.
Yeah. No, but that's her name. Yeah. She's not Catherine. She's not,
Yeah, she's not Kate.
No.
Kate. Yeah, Kate.
Oh no, not Kate Bates. She's Kate.
She's just Kate.
I'm saying. Oh no. I wasn't asking that. I'm saying
she's not Catherine.
She's Kate Bates.
No, she's Kate.
Because in our house, she's Kate Bates. There's no just Kate.
All of her friends in college is one word, Kate Bates.
Kate Bates.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I mean. It's like one word.
Can you stand where you're going to stand? Can you see each other? That's the important thing.
I think this is more fun. I've never done one in my house before. You're the first person
Really?
live.
Yeah. But and also that it's overcast.
It's nice.
So you don't get this backlit, but you get the outside.
Yep.
Feels very farm-like.
Okay.
Are
you
happy? Smelling my butt, dude.
Because
it's got some good smells in. You happy with that?
Yeah, and I'm not moving.
Do you know a better place to smell than your butt?
Than your butt if you're a dog?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hit or miss.
It's hit or miss.
Am I in?
Are you in? You're in.
That's what
I signed you in. That's what she said.
Coffee.
I'm just like taking away the.
I got to take away my volume, don't I?
Yeah, you've got to take away your volume so it doesn't become that.
Take my volumes away.
Is it live?
It is live.
Cool, 100%.
100% live, and then it goes to tape.
No, but it's live. It's on air live.
It's going on.
And then it goes on tape.
Yeah, in about 3 minutes, people will start showing up. If they're not there already.
300-400.
Yeah. It's hard. It's just trying to.
But the coffee's good.
It's my husband.
Marissa made it.
I did. You're nice.
You did. You made it.
I did not.
You guys seem to like each other.
Whatever.
Tolerate.
How long have you been married?
30 years this year. 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 27.
How about you? Yeah.
That's a long time.
So you were 98? Got married in 98? Yeah.
But you still like her?
Yeah. I mean, I think the
question
question would certainly go the other way.
You were on video.
Oh, yeah.
Video test to me.
No, I'm just saying, I'm a lot to like this long. I think what I love about more and more than lots, I came to the marriage like really rich, and like a reasonable, return politician, and then now I'm just like a poor old bad farmer, and we work 7 days a week, and not a great retirement plan for Lauren to be working cash register number 1 at the store, and she doesn't let me on cash register 1 because apparently I talk too much, and then the line backs up and I panic and I just give people food. So I'm the fast case register too.
Talking of which, your guy yesterday, whoever was on the register, we bought 11 items. He rang us up for 8. So I said, there's got to be more here. So we went back through the bag. So yeah.
Hey guys, I can see you all piling up here. It's nice to see you all. I'm going to take the scarf off in a minute because I'm beginning to sweat in my own house and I don't think it's attractive. So don't mind me as I'm getting dressed in front of you. You didn't think it was going to be that kind of live video, did you? Anyway, nice to see you. As you can see across, there's my husband scuttling across, and the man
Mark
across from me for the first time ever live in my home. I actually have the guest. The whole point of my podcast was to have the idea that a guest was across the kitchen island from me talking, and for the first time ever, I actually have one. Let's show that we're actually in the same room. Here, touch my hand.
Oh, I love this.
There it is. There we are. Okay, so we're all here in the same room, and my guest, in case you're wondering, is a man named Charles Rosen. Charles Rosen, thank you so much for getting up early on a Sunday morning, but you're a farmer.
Yeah, not so early, but it's really nice to be pretending that my day got to start at 10. It's perfect. Yes.
Charles Rosen is a fixture here, not only in the Montclair community, but really in the world. You have had a very busy existence, and now you're not but an old farmer. Could you just clue the people in? Well, let me introduce you slightly, and then you can correct me. How about that? Okay.
That's really one of my favorite things in the world is correcting people about me. Yeah. So that seems like a great hour.
First thing that you might notice is, let's see, he's from Canada, but he's okay. No, in fact, he's better because he is from Canada. But he comes to us and he's a very, I think you have contributed more to New Jersey than most people.
Wow.
And in the same sense,
I do like I forget what year it was, like 2020, whatever, the 20 people you needed to watch in New Jersey, and I beat Phil Murphy by 1. Like, I think I was 17 and he was 18. I was like, okay, that was enough. So I would say that I've contributed 1 more than Phil Murphy. No,
I think maybe even, well, anyway, we'll talk about that another time. You started your career, you were a lawyer at one point, you went into advertising and advertised big, fancy brands. And at some point you slid into politics. And how did that happen?
Yeah, it's,
I want people to have an understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's funny. I will start with, when I was practicing law, I remember, one of my last months of practicing law, I was called into one of the senior partners' office, at our big New York firm. And she said, is everything, are you doing okay? And I said, yeah, no, everything's fine. And she goes, well, we're a little concerned because you billed 16 hours this month. I'm like, for me, it's like quality, not quantity. They say, yeah, not so much for whatever that 180 hour minimum. And I was like, well, to be honest, I don't understand how I'm this stressed and this bored at the same time. And I was like, so I don't think I want to be a lawyer. And by this point, I had already started working on creating legal structures for first-time filmmakers. I spent a lot of time in the film business first. And so I officially left the practice of law to produce a movie called Chocolate Babies. And it was a movie about a band of HIV-positive Black drag queens. And to call my Jewish parents at home in Canada and say, like, I've left my Park Avenue law firm and I'm making a movie called Chocolate Babies. And, it's funny because no matter what I did with my life, whether when I got into the political space, my time with Hillary, all this stuff, and no matter what, at some point my dad would be like, are you sure you don't want to go back to the practice of law? Like, it was just breaking their hearts. So, so I left that to spend some time in the film business. And I was working, I built a film company that was only focused on working with first-time filmmakers. And so after Chocolate Babies, I worked on a couple of things, but the film that, I am most proud of was called 3 Seasons. We just had the 25th or something anniversary, but it was the only American movie ever shot in Vietnam since the war. And it took almost, a few years, 3 years back and forth, getting government approval in Vietnam to shoot. And it was a really important movie. And it was lovely. Actually, we were just honored at the 40th anniversary of Sundance this past year. And after all these years with a lot of baggage, a lot of negative feelings about folks in the film business, to go back with that team and sort of be recognized alongside with all the Napoleon Dynamite guys, which I thought was fun.
Oh, that's super cool.
It was after it was an interesting moment for me to have carried that much rage and anger towards other people for so long, and sort of realize it was sort of for naught. And it was a kind of big lesson in knowing how to let go of stuff. So, and I was really happy to be able to be there with my wife. And anyway, but then it was funny because so this movie, 3 Seasons, which we won all the awards. In 98, we won every award in competition at Sundance, Best Picture, Grand Jury Prize, cinematography, everything. And nobody's ever seen the film, right? We were shortlisted for Best Foreign Language.
And where can we watch it?
Yeah, you can get it. It's actually going to be re-released this year because in a new digitized fashion for the 25th anniversary, and Sundance is putting that together. Okay. But anyway, the reason why I bring it up is, a long part of my life, and maybe on another show we can talk about the end of my career with that and Harvey Keitel and the battles with him. But anyway,
there's more there.
The whole story. But needless to say, one of the most important things I achieved in my life, and everybody would be like, oh, I've never seen it. And so when Lauren and I were first
Lauren is his wife.
My wife, Lauren. When we were first married, I I was leaving the film business. I was done. And she was leaving her job in advertising to go get her master's in social work at NYU. And so it was really great. Actually, we were both unemployed when we first got married. And our friends in Toronto got us a PlayStation as our wedding gift. And what I loved was because it was just like we started the first few months of marriage, like unemployed, sitting on our couch in our tiny little New York apartment. Like in the morning, it was just smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and like fighting each other in Tekken 3. And then at some point, we moved to beer in the afternoon. And like, it was just like, it was a really wonderful way to start.
The best honeymoon.
Yeah. And anyway, at that point, she was about to go back to go to school. And I was at an event and I like a party. And there's this old guy that kind of came up to me and he was just, he said, with his like Virginia accent, he was like, "Oh, I just wanted to meet you because 3 Seasons, one of the most important movies I've ever seen." I said, "Oh, thank you. It's funny." He always said, "What are you working on now?" And I said, "Oh, I'm actually leaving the business and I don't know what I want to do." And he said, "Oh, well, you should work for me." And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." He goes, "I'm Cliff Freeman." And I said, I don't know what that is. Like, I'd never even thought of advertising as a job.
Right.
And it ends up that Cliff is the guy that wrote like Wendy's Where's the Beef and Little Caesars Pizza. He was like one of the most famous guys, the biggest comedic talent in all of advertising history.
Oh my God.
And I like, he's like, "Oh, we should just make stuff together." And so I went home to say to Lauren, we just got married, and I'm like, "I think I'm going to work for this guy, Cliff Freeman." You're going into advertising? Like it was horrible. She was leaving that horrible world. I was like, "I think I'm going to be in advertising." And she's like she had married a lawyer, movie producer. And then all of a sudden I'm going into the shitty world of advertising. So in a couple of years, I ended up being the executive vice president of Cliff and being part of the executive team running the agency. And then really interestingly, sort of created an agency as an offspin of Cliff with a number of other guys, and it's what gets us into the political work. But one of our partners, a guy named Doug Holt, he was a professor at the time at Harvard Business School, had created his academic work was studying how brands became iconic. And this is actually really important about what we're doing now. But this idea that when a brand can hold out a powerful ideology, a powerful worldview that responds to the tensions at a moment in time, that's how brands have symbolic resonance, right? Even if you think about in our political arena, you think about somebody like, a Donald Trump, that hat has tremendous symbolic value versus like just, it's the identity of the person wearing that hat. Same thing with the Obama Hope button. Do we want to take a break and let your dog out?
No, I'll just come over here. You can see me now. We have 2 cameras.
Just so you guys know, Bates have a new dog, Norman Bates. He's a lot right now. So
I'll just stand behind you now.
Oh yeah, look at that. So anyway, so hey, welcome back.
Thanks.
So anyway, I think a lot about in the political space, you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, 3 men that I know real well and would argue that 3 not very equipped men to be president of the United States, and yet have such deep symbolic resonance, right? This notion of holding out an ideology that responds to those tensions. So our work in advertising was really about doing that and working with and then creating some of the most iconic brands. We launched our agency with Ben & Jerry's and working with Ben to understand like what it is to create a brand that's focused on social and environmental justice and working with farmers to create living wages, a lot of really important things, and living through the Unilever acquisition of Ben & Jerry's with them not really understanding what they bought is also a really neat and interesting thing. And so
I still think they don't understand, actually.
Well, they don't. Unilever doesn't. And very funny. I don't think I've ever told this live or should maybe not be a recording, but it was very funny.
We'll all be quiet about this.
Yeah.
Okay,
so this is just between us, right? I'll try to tell the story as politically, appropriate as I can, but I don't think I should tell this, but the guy, the best global head of ice cream for Unilever at the time was a guy named Eric Walsh, and he was a British. He was a jerk. He just wasn't a nice man, and the fact that he was heading up ice cream,
like those people, like bakers and florists, they should all be nice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, it's funny. It's like it's backing up Ben Cohen, Ben of Ben and Jerry's. Ben, without Ben and Jerry's, he's just like an angry liberal. Like me, and the ice cream's just mediocre ice cream without Ben, right? So Ben's not a really nice guy, but he was important as Ben of Ben and Jerry's. So it's like sometimes you don't have to be nice if you're a baker, you can be a dick, but like you need the two things together, right? Ben and Ben and Jerry's made sense. Anyway, so the global offices of Unilever's ice cream was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, because when they had bought Good Humor and Breyers, it was just Green Bay. So having to go to Green Bay was just always a nightmare. I mean, I only liked being in Green Bay because like I wasn't the fattest guy there, right? I was like, oh, I could be in this meeting with my shirts off. But anyway, so Eric had said at one point,
anybody out there from Green Bay, just let me know in the comments.
We were working on a campaign about saving the American farmer at that time. This is early 2000s or whatever. So, you know, Ben would be involved in any kind of social justice programs, even though he wasn't like involved with the ice cream as much, but this kind of stuff. Anyway, he had, we were at this meeting and Eric had said, you know, we were at this point we were chasing the no carb craze or the low carb craze, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, Ben and Jerry's only has 3 things on its label. Ben and Jerry's, Vermont's finest, and all natural, right? Well, they were talking about moving us to a plant in Nevada, Breyer's plant. Ben was no longer with the company, and to chase the low carb craze, we would have had to take all natural off the label because it was like, you know, these artificial sweeteners and stuff.
Oh.
Right? Like whatever those days was.
Oh, because of the low carb stuff. Whatever. Yeah, okay.
To be in the low carb case, we couldn't have sugar. So it was literally the only things that the brand stood for, right? I mean, Unilever bought Ben & Jerry's for $360 million because of what it stood for, because it's not the ice cream, it's what that ice cream represented to us. And anyway, so, you know, we were in a struggle with them because like as their agency and trying to build this stuff, it was like, well, these are the 3 things that make our brand relevant. It's really hard to like chase this low carb thing. And at one point, Ben had said, sort of off the record, Eric, he's like, wow, you know, you guys keep coming up with wacky flavor combinations and fun pun names and everything. And Eric's like, yeah, he's like, and you don't have a fucking clue why. Like, he was just so mad. It was like, and it was literally the not understanding of the value, the significance, what it meant to us that we could be honoring a company that cared about stuff beyond just quarterly returns, right? And if you think about it, jumping ahead now, we live in a system that's only about, you know, shareholder supremacy, right? Quarterly returns for shareholders, instant gratification as consumers, and as long as businesses in this country only value those things, and as consumers we only value low cost and convenience,
right?
We're leading down a very bad. You're not going to beat Jeff Bezos and Amazon and Whole Foods at low cost and convenience, right? And shareholder supremacy. Lord knows when he's making $361 million a day. If that's what we value.
You make 361 million?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know
anybody else.
I don't know the opposite of 361. I think I make that. It would just be nice to make something. But anyway, but you know, doing God's works.
Yeah, exactly. You are.
But anyway, no.
He really is.
I remember one of the most important things that I think Ben and Jerry's did was like working with the dairy farmers in Vermont with this organization called the St. Albans Creamery Co-op. And what he did, and it really has impacted our business tremendously, but he had a contract with the dairy farmers that if they agreed to get growth hormones out of milk, you know, RBGH free milk, that he wouldn't they would honor a contract of pricing that was necessary for those farmers to make that shift, right? So milk is a very commodity-based business, right? Mm-hmm. And so people are trying to buy at the low and literally dump milk and when it's too expensive. But the farmers couldn't make this shift without the company's commitment to them to farm the right way. And I would argue that, you know, one man, Ben, single-handedly got growth hormones out of milk in this country. And that was by working directly with farmers. And it was interesting, too, from an ideological or a political perspective. I mean, Vermont farmers were some of the most conservative people in this country.
Right.
Vermont became one of the most progressive states in the Union. You know, this led to Bernie Sanders being, you know, elected. And Ben and Bernie's work together. And, you know, it was just very interesting to see Vermont make a commitment to its farmers, to its land, to the employees, to healthcare, all of the things that we care about, and we being Canadians, let's say, affordable healthcare, schools and stuff. Vermont has led the charge on that, and that was really, I think, largely due to Ben & Jerry's.
I don't think people really understand that Vermont, in some pockets still, but was a very conservative state. Like, we all think of it as being hippie liberal, and only very, like, in Bernie pocket, which was like Burlington.
Yes. And again, I think, when you think about the brand Ben & Jerry's, it's like, so the way we think about building culturally iconic brands, right? It's sort of a three-part thing. One is you need a sort of this ideology, a powerful worldview, right? That responds to these cultural tensions at a moment in time, right? And then, so the ideology doesn't change, but the tensions, the crises shift, right? But how does Coca-Cola's brand around American humanitarianism, respond to tensions? How does, whatever. One very quick example of that is, I remember when we first moved to Montclair, and for those of you not familiar with Montclair in your audience, our former Republican governor named us the People's Republic of Montclair, right? Because we're so progressive, right? That's a whole other story on our virtue signaling here in Montclair that we could talk about another time. But
we'll be discussing virtue signaling in the coming new year.
But anyway, so we had moved here, and this is when I was starting to, really focus on moving into the political realm in my work in politics. But it was funny. So Lauren and I were, again, that's my wife. I wanted a Prius, and this is, 20 whatever years ago, 22 years ago.
Of course,
I moved to Montclair, and I needed a Prius, and so we drive to the Toyota dealer on Route 10, and we sit down, and the dealer says, "Oh, you want a Prius? What do you drive now?" And I pointed out the window to our BMW. And he said, "Oh, you want to go from a BMW to a Prius?" He goes, "Look, between me and you, the Prius is a shitbox." That's what the dude said. He said, "It's a shitbox." He said, "Can I interest you in the Camry hybrid?" He said, "It's the exact same emissions level, and it's a much better car." And I was like, "No, because everybody's going to think I'm driving a Camry," right? It wasn't about me saving the world. It was the image of me saving the world, right? There you are with a Montclair Prius with your Whole Foods canvas bags and a, Obama bumper sticker. You're just a walking collection of these symbols that define me as an individual, right?
Never.
I actually liked my Prius. I don't think of it as a shitbox, but it was, whatever.
Norman wants
back then. Yeah. So I'll keep this. So anyway, this is back to the Vermont piece, but so this idea of an ideology that responds to these tensions at a moment in time, but also that it lives in a subculture, like this idea that there can be a group of people that capture that ideology, right? So if you think about the Harley Davidson biker, and the Patagonia dirtbags, these are subcultures that actually capture that ideology. And so this notion of the back to the lander Vermont hippie, that became the sort of embodiment of Ben & Jerry's. To your point, that wasn't the majority of New Jersey. Sorry, not New Jersey. Vermont. We picked them as and Ben & Jerry's. I mean, picked them and honored them, and but that was beyond. Right. It was this subculture that lived within this larger space, but it really captured the ideology of Ben & Jerry's and the ideology that got Bernie elected, and this notion of a collective well-being, a connection to the earth, all of those things that seem to be really important right now that we've lost. That was really about knowing how to tap into that subculture.
Right. And didn't make, well, I mean, this is a conversation for another time, but like that idea of the collective well-being, I think all of us who I point to here in our little Substack world right now would want for that.
Yeah, well, that jumps to our work now. And so I will say very quickly, in between my advertising work and then moving, my path into the political space wasn't really as an attorney, and it wasn't really on policy, but it was on this notion of how to build sort of iconic brands. And
like Norman Bates, the dog?
Yeah, he is
This doesn't
he's
happen on the
needy.
Today Show, people.
He's needy. I think I'm guessing maybe Marissa just brought him in as an actor just to make it feel more like at home in her kitchen.
Exactly.
She never even met this.
This is actually a studio in Victoria, Queens.
Dog traders outside just sending him back in. So anyway, working, it was interesting, like spending time with Hillary Clinton. I will tell you, there's not many people more equipped to be president of the United States than Hillary in terms of her brilliance, her commitment to service, her a lot of things. But from a brand perspective, she was only sort of painted as an entitled white old woman
in a pantsuit.
And Barack Obama, who is a whole other conversation, but I would argue largely driven by personal ascension, getting in the club, whatever. The image of sort of this progressive Black, man rising up that our identity was tied to, and it was interesting, like no young girls were like looking at Hillary and be like, I want to be her. But, every person of color, everybody said, oh, Obama, but it's how he resonated at that symbolic level. And by the way, critically important, his brand that sort of repaired our reputation around the world instantly. This idea that we could come together as a people and value.
Yeah.
And, I would argue, and it's a whole other piece, and it's about how we do business too, but I would argue that as candidate Obama, he stood for everything that was right and necessary for us.
Absolutely.
As President Obama, it was still a version of this top-down governance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sort of this, he had created a populism born of our progressive values as a candidate, right? Yeah. This idea that we, the people, could come together.
Right.
And
address
issues of income inequality and racial injustice and getting out of the war in Iraq and climate change, all of these things that we all cared about.
Mm-hmm.
The campaign embodied that. But it's not how we governed, right?
No,
it was
I think we were talking about Reagan Democrats yesterday.
Yeah. So this idea that I think, sadly, for pretty much 50 years, the sort of Democratic Party has been kind of lying to the people. We've said, oh, if you're Black, you got to vote for us. If you're gay, you got to vote for us. If you're immigrant, and we're shaming people for putting kids in cages and doing all this stuff. But the reality is, because these leaders at the state and federal level have primarily been Reagan Democrats, corporate Democrats, working for the same kind of special interests that one could argue Donald Trump works for, people got pretty tired of that false promise over 50 years.
Yeah.
Trump was able to go into Detroit in 2016 and literally say to an auditorium full of Black folks, like, you might as well vote for me because, like, what that guy did for you, so you might as well give me a shot. And he was right. When I look at my work in prison reentry, that's a big part of our business, and criminal justice reform and social justice and the well-being of farmers, all of these things.
Yeah.
That was the promise of decades of Democratic, that old school Kennedy lunchbox Democrat, that Southern Democrat, they're gone. And because we didn't serve them. So this notion of the power of a brand, but sort of what's happening internally for the company is different, or the person, right? And it's interesting. So this leads us to where we are now, that, so there's two ways to sort of, what I would argue, build a iconic cultural brand. One is just laying this sort of messaging or brand identity on top of it. Let's say iconic American brands like Budweiser or Coca-Cola. These aren't good company. I mean, Bud's a really fascinating example, that, as a country, up until 1980, till Reagan was elected, we were a manufacturing-based economy. Right. Then we shifted to being a professional services-based economy. We started outsourcing all of our labor overseas. Right. It's easy to not care about your workforce when they're in Indonesia rather than your own community. It was at that moment that Budweiser came out with and I don't know how old your listeners are, but that's when Budweiser came out with the This Bud's For You campaign. which was a salute to the American worker.
Yep.
So even though these men were losing their jobs in steel towns and manufacturing cities and in Detroit, right? All of a sudden, Budweiser came out and said, hey, dock worker, hey, guy in the steel plant, hey, guy in the automotive plant, you built this country and this Bud's for you. So that Budweiser became a badge for those American workers. It didn't matter that the beer tasted like piss. It literally didn't matter, right? Because the identity was about me wearing that Bud hat. Or now Budweiser's it's not even an American company. And it's a multinational company. You know, the beer still tastes like shit. But still, this notion of what it means to be the hardworking American, right? What do we love in this country?
Right.
Populist men of action, right?
Right.
Rugged individuals.
You're not the Marlboro. We can't have the Marlboro man.
Can't have the Marlboro man, but it's a beer. Right. Yeah. But that cowboy myth, right? I always joke that, or not joke, it's crazy that George Bush was a fucking cheerleader at Yale, right? But he's a cowboy. Goes outside, oh, that cowboy. I mean, that's great.
And then we all said, what? We want to have a beer with him.
We don't want to have a beer.
President.
I won't have a beer with Obama. I'm certainly not going to have a beer with Hillary Clinton.
He doesn't want to.
But I want to have a beer.
Right.
She's gluten-free, whatever, you know. We do share a doctor I used to, and it's the same doctor that made Bill Clinton a vegan, which just made him really
fun. You know who I shared a doctor with?
Ooh.
Donald Trump.
Wow.
You remember the Harold Bornstein, the doctor with the long hair who wrote the letter for him? He was my doctor. And I believe, I don't really mean this, but I believe that Donald Trump basically killed him. Wow. He died shortly after this whole thing. And he was a man in good health. And he was one of the best. He was kind of crazy, sort of like possibly, I don't know. He was just a wonderful doctor, so caring, so thoughtful. And Donald Trump just had
just another. Yeah. What's funny, I'm not in any way, shape, or form implying that I have the kind of power of death that Donald Trump does, but I will say that the doctor that I was talking about, a guy named Mark Hyman, who was the Ultra Wellness Center, he's kind of a famous guy now, Mark.
So is my doctor.
Took me off of gluten, dairy, and sugar like 25 years ago, right? And in my last phone call with him, I had these like 6-month interviews. I said, Mark, I don't understand. I'm fat. I'm tired. I'm in the bathroom all the time. My eyes are dark. Like I'm not sleeping. I feel like shit. What's going on? He said, well, let's see, Charles. You're smoking, eating gluten, dairy, and sugar. I'm like, I am not. I'm like this gluten-free vegan. He goes, you're nothing like a gluten-free vegan. I'm like, do you think I should quit smoking cigarettes? He's like, how many patients and so like, I'm asking this world famous doctor, is smoking bad for you? So that was the end of our relationship. I think I got fired by him before I could take him down.
Before you could kill him.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, that's not you. So anyway.
If anybody has any health questions,
for
Charles Rosen,
I know everything. I choose not to practice it, but I'm a guru when it comes to what I don't practice.
I just want to say there are people, including my brother, hi Paul, in the comments who are commenting on Norman's commentary in the background, and I just want to say,
are they pro-Norman or not?
They appear pro-Norman. Find your voice. And my brother says, find your voice, Norman.
Just so you guys know, he's drinking water now, which is great to hydrate. That's an important other lesson that he's sharing that with us. He went out for a walk. He's rehydrated.
He's rehydrated.
Yeah, no, he's living the dream.
Anyway, we are here talking about how you got into the politics portion of your existence. And then we get to taste alcohol.
Yeah, we have to get to the alcohol. So I'm going to jump to this so that when I was in a sort of, I don't know, call it all my friends make fun of me when I say I was in my exploratory phase of like ready for Congress. Like I was going to run in the 11th, which is the district here, which Mikey Sherrill, our now governor-elect, won. And this was before her and before redistricting and stuff. So, I kind of made a decision that like this notion of being a lawyer and then the kind of films that I was making and then my work and the kind of brands that we were working with in like Ben & Jerry's and Patagonia and Seventh Generation, I always had this sort of pull to serve. It was always about sort of how could I be in service of the community? That was just sort of my professional journey. My parents were huge communitarians in Canada, living just really full lives of philanthropy and whatever community building. And so I think I came by it pretty honestly, but I never really found my space to do it. And but I made a decision that like once you understand for whom the system works, You realize it's working perfectly, and you can't really change a system that's working as designed, right? I think about my friend Bernie Sanders. I mean, like, arguably the 3 worst words in American politics are like New York socialist Jew, because like it's antithetical to that American dream, right? That dream of the individual rising up. It's not my fault that I'm poor, it's your fault. If I get you out of the way, I'm getting a boat, right? And that's the promise of that red hat, right? And Bernie's work in sort of collective well-being and stuff kind of flies in the face of that American dream of rugged individualism, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a necessary usness to his messaging and to our work that's not resonating so deeply in a world that's so focused on individual success at the expense of everyone else around.
Right. And your rugged individualism is really not going to take you very far when you can't get into the emergency room. But that's okay. Go on.
Yeah. Well, and also that dream really doesn't belong to anybody unless they were already wealthy. I mean, it's a bit of, I don't use the word myth necessarily pejoratively, but that this myth of the American dream of that if I work hard and you get out of my way, that's the great American dream. But we know that whether it's getting into the right schools or on the right team or the right whatever, so that you can get the right job, so that you can be there. That's any of us with children, around our kids' ages, we know that's almost impossible for them to navigate. The notion that in this sort of winner take all new model, or not new model, but this that sort of we lost the sense of usness. Our son, who was a elite hockey player, went to University of Michigan to play and whatever. Hockey started to not look like a team sport anymore. Hockey was about still individual success. And if you're not passing me the puck so I can score, so that scout can't see me, you're in my way.
Mm-hmm.
So it really lost this sort of notion of the sacred locker room that we all knew and loved. It's just gone. So anyway, so what I decided instead of running was I said, okay, I want to start a business. I want to start a business that can prove that a for-profit business could care about human repair, community building, environmental stewardship, and still be a business. Break us out of this left versus right, us versus them narrative, because this thing's fake. Those of us that were political strategists, we just do that for a living. It's easy to separate people. And once they're separated, we know it's easier to control them. That's the divide and conquer politics 101. And it's working fucking beautifully right now. Beautifully. I mean, it's almost artful when you think, to me, the cruelty of what's happening right now is that it is so intentional. The pain is so intentional. The chaos is so intentional because it's triggering people to feel that they're in survival mode. And when human beings are in survival mode, they can't think beyond that short-term crisis. Right? Period. Great. I can't see what's happening in the future.
And I can't do anything for myself, so I'm just going to fall back as
well. And also, and in that falling back and that retreat, it's also about pushing the other guy away, right? If you're stealing my pie, I got to push you away. Well, I feel like I've eaten enough pie. I don't know if your viewers can see this, but I've had plenty of pie.
He hasn't had that.
I could share a piece of pie now and then, but that it's a very powerful instinct. So anyway, I wanted to start a company that said, okay, we can stand for that stuff as a business. And it's funny, I lost sight of it. I was saying, like, there's 2 ways to be a culturally iconic brand. One is like just the superficial marketing on top of it, like a Budweiser or Coca-Cola. And then there's businesses that did it by how they do business. A Ben & Jerry's, right? A Patagonia. These are companies that have big iconic brand value, badge value, because of how they do business. Even a Starbucks. Starbucks didn't have advertising for its first 40 years. It was walking into that store. Starbucks isn't a coffee company. Starbucks is a real estate company. And the fact that you walk in and it stands for what it stands for is why you're willing to pay 7 times what you pay for the same cup of coffee at a Dunkin' Donuts or a gas station. It's the same liquid.
Yeah.
It's the same shitty. I mean, Starbucks coffee is shit. It's just shit. It's burnt shit, but it doesn't matter because it's like this affordable luxury. It says something about me. And
I get a treat for myself.
I thought the whatever thing, and it's great. That's about the brand. Anyway, so I went to Newark. This is a long way to get to alcohol, but I went to Newark.
And at the end, he'll deserve the alcohol.
Right. Yeah. So going to Newark, which is, again, for your listeners and viewers that don't know where Montclair is, we're basically a suburb of Newark, New Jersey, and we're a suburb from the days of the early industrial centers of Newark. And so the big homes in Montclair actually were the homes of the industrial titans like Tiffany of Tiffany Lamp. All these people lived here, and the factories were in Newark.
And we had early train service here, not as early as Summit, but it was early train service so people could go here for their summers.
Yes.
And have their fancy houses here.
That's
and
right.
Maybe live in the city but when during the winter when it was a little easier to live in a city. And Montclair rose that way. And also, if you look to the left, we have Paterson, which was literally the birthplace of industrial might in the United States, and Newark over there. I'm signaling over here. And over in this corner, here we have Newark, and over in that corner, we have Paterson.
Yeah.
So we're really...
And Alexander Hamilton said Paterson was the most important city in the Union. And it's interesting, that'll come back to our work. So it's neat that you picked that, because I will say, jumping ahead a bit, that sort of New Jersey's two key pillars. First is as the Garden State, right? The agrarian community. I mean, most of New Jersey was farmland, and some dispute who it was, but primarily given to Ben Franklin. When Benjamin Franklin named New Jersey the Garden State, he said it's as if New Jersey, the Garden State, is an immense barrel full of wonderful food, with New York topping one end and Philadelphia the other. So that's one piece. But then you also had the sort of our manufacturing roots, right? So Paterson and Newark and Trenton. I mean, the Trenton Bridge that says what Trenton makes
the world takes. Yes.
Right. So you had these two sort of things. And to me, place matters. When you're building a brand, you're building a company, you have to understand place.
Yeah.
And I spent a long time studying Newark, all the way literally back to Pangea and how it was formed and what was happening geologically, and why the wetlands, why the meadowlands are such a critically important part. These estuaries that should be softening our shorelines instead of building concrete to have walls up as we face climate change. Everything worked, how the indigenous people, like you said, coming back into the cities and flowing out, as water does in the Newark water basin, so too did the indigenous people coming down and fishing there, and then coming back to the hills doing things. And also, why was Newark sort of this space for after emancipation, huge migration of Southern Black workers to be part of the new economy. I mean, what was interesting, Newark was named Newark. It had a dual meaning, which I love. First, because Newark was settled by the New England Puritans that were kicked out of New England, they called it Newark as a place of spiritual rebirth. So New Ark of the Covenant, right? It was this idea of going to a place that was about a spiritual rebirth, but to also do the new work of the nation. So it's this double meaning, New Ark and new work, right? And very different than New York, which was about individual success. I don't know if you know this, but New York is the only city in Western civilization that didn't have a church for its first 27 years of existence. New York did not have a church. It was just business from day one. It was
I had no idea.
Nothing.
And then Trinity was
yeah, well, that was so late, because what happened was every other city in the New World, you built a church, and then homes and everything was built around that church. Not New York. Wall Street existed way before Trinity kind of church at Wall Street, So it's funny. It was always business from day one. New Jersey and Newark were very different. It was, again, this idea of a manufacturing center and building a new kind of economy. And that literally led to what Newark looks like today. And it's funny, the companies that think Newark can now be the new Silicon Valley, or new this or new that, or we're going to have an Amazon warehouse, or we're going to have a casino, they're missing the point. This is not how to develop a city that has the infrastructure and the people and everything that it has. So anyway, I went in and we studied it. We were doing a lot of different urban ag projects. We were doing a bunch of different things. And it was funny. I didn't even know what we were doing as a business for our first 2 years. I just knew that I wanted to work with the most sort of marginalized members of the community, and working with is important versus working for, right? When I started the company, I started as a typical liberal elite social justice warrior. I'm going to go from Montclair and have Black folk in Newark, right?
Right.
Kind of the arrogance of that kind of makes me throw up a little in my mouth, because
everybody else too, so don't worry.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it has actually been the biggest lesson I've learned, that is that you can't build community like this, only this, right? And if my heart is open to you, and if we are in relation to each other, you're really, really hard for me to think of you as my enemy. And this is a big thing that I've learned as a farmer, the humility that comes with our work. To know that we're in this thing together is,
and also it removes the possibility ability of condescension.
Yes.
Whereas like, well, even look what I am giving you.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When I went to Newark and say, okay, so all of our Newark employees are formerly incarcerated men and women. So most marginalized members of the community. And, because of my work in prison reentry and criminal justice reform, I understood the sort of plight of that. But yeah, so I went in and say like, we don't know what we're doing as a business, but I know that I'm only going to have, ex-offenders working for us. But that when it was for us, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter what the living wage jobs was. It was only through the time of working together that we sort of evolved our model, and which got us to where we are now. But the one thing that was sort of necessary in our work, and it gets us to the alcohol, is that we came to learn that one of the earliest industries, maybe the first industry in Newark, was hard cider, alcoholic cider.
And since you've been telling me about
this,
and I've known about you sort of like skirting the edge of, I might become a congressman, and then realizing you could do so much more, not being on the phone. How many hours a day? I think this statistic, I forget the details of, but you were like, do you know how many hours a day a congressman has to spend on the phone to constituent or to people to donate money?
It's illegal to raise money on Capitol Hill, so there's a call center, and as a junior member in the House, you spend a lot of hours in the call center and then in district raising money. It's not a lot of time talking policy, not a lot of time talking with folks on the other side of the aisle. That's not the job. The job of being in the House is raising more money for the party and keeping your power.
Did people out there have a sense of that? Just let me know in the live chat. Like, if you just want to write in and let me know, like, I had some sense that this is what they were doing out there, because it was so mind-boggling to me, because we're like, why aren't they doing more for us? It's like, well, they have to do stuff for themselves first.
Well, and it's not themselves too; it's the party, right? So the fact that a House race is every 2 years means you're perpetually in campaign mode, and you're not just campaigning to keep your own seat, which again is almost futile because of gerrymandering, because of redistricting. We know our seats are safe, right? Before Mikey Sherrill was the member of the House in the 11th here, that was a Republican seat because it was Rodney Freelandheisen, who was bringing a ton of money to the state as that chair of the House Ways and Means Committee.
Mm-hmm.
When I wanted to run in the 11th, most people in the Democratic caucus didn't want me to run against Rodney because he was very important to the state because he brought money to us.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter that he was a Republican. I was a Democrat. It didn't matter. They wanted me to run in the 5th. They wanted me to take on other people that they didn't think served us. But
a name like Freelandheisen, this is going to be the world's best segue. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Freelandheisen is a really old Dutch name.
Yeah.
And his family, I think, traces way back to the founding of New Jersey.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's towns. When you weren't running for Congress against a guy who's got towns named after the family, you're like, you're a little more Jersey than some, newly transplanted Canadian New York Jew who's like, I'm going to work for the people. It's Sussex County.
But so way back when, Newark was like the home of not just cider in New Jersey and the New World, but what Newark made the world tated.
Yeah, yes, Newark. Yeah, yeah. Well, so the cider is really interesting. So from the late 1600s to the early 1800s, colonial Americans, the Europeans coming over, would get sick from drinking the water. They would, so they drank cider instead. And cider was not even considered alcohol.
No.
Children drank Kinder cider. During Prohibition, you could drink cider because it wasn't alcohol, it was water. I mean, Johnny Appleseed worked for the Newark cider industry, planting orchards to move people out west.
He did?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other... By the way, John Chapman's such a great story. That is a whole other thing. John Chapman planting orchards between here and Ohio to move people west, was planting orchards on land that he did not own and then selling it for a fortune. Johnny Appleseed died as one of the richest men in the country by selling land that wasn't his, because Jersey has been Jersey forever, right? And the best part is, the other great part of that is, I love his story. Whatever you American kids learn in school about Johnny Appleseed is not true. So he was also a Puritan missionary. So as he was out planting apples, he was also doing missionary work. And when people were pissed because he was planting by Appleseed and trees, then the apple varietals wouldn't sort of be what they were supposed to be, because seedlings just have genetic automatic genetic modification. People weren't thrilled about how he was planting apple trees, but he would say to people, well, no, you're wrong. I had a dream and God spoke to me in the dream and God determined, what variety of apples these would be. And who are you to question God? So like this double whammy of sell land that wasn't yours and blame it on God. That's a great sales tactic.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm
So
changing my whole method here.
yeah.
God has chosen you to support me. Thank you.
Well, and it's also jumping ahead a little, but this cider, Samuel Harrison, one of the, Harrison, which is one of the important Newark family names, their cider, for I think like over 100 years, the majority of champagne drunk in this country wasn't champagne from France. It was just relabeled cider as champagne. And we saw this little piece in Harper's Magazine, I forget, from the 1800s, whatever, that was calling Newark cider the champagne of ciders, but champagne was spelled S-H-A-M, like a sham, which I just love so much, and the history of cider is incredible. And cider, to me, really tapped into, again, these two parts of our Jersey roots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our agrarian roots in growing the apples, turning it into cider, shipping that all over the country. And jumping ahead a little, which I think is even deepening that history. And what's interesting is that, actually, before I get to this, so the Harrison apple, this guy, Samuel Harrison, was always thought to be the most important apple.
Here's a picture of the Harrison apple for all of you at home.
By the way, that picture, I mean, I'm jumping all over the place, but there was an encyclopedia from the 1700s, a encyclopedia of apples called the William Cox wrote this encyclopedia, and his daughter did these watercolors of all of the apple varietals that were in existence at the time, inside and outside. And these encyclopedias are still what people have to look for, like apple historians and apple detectives that are looking for lost apples reference the William Cox encyclopedia, and those pictures are now owned by the Smithsonian. So Samuel Harrison's daughter making these gorgeous watercolors. So we have these beautiful like prints, but of these paintings at our farm of these great historic New Jersey apples.
I'd buy those.
The Harrison and the Campfield and the Granny Winkle. There's these gorgeous New Jersey apples.
Let's pause for a moment. Okay, so we know that Newark is like this home base to all the cider manufacturing in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And the King of England, King George III, was like,
he wrote about the quality and quantity of Newark cider. There was a great correspondence between Newark cider purveyors and Thomas Jefferson, where basically they wrote to the president and saying, Mr. President, we've reserved our 2 finest barrels of Newark cider for the president. And they were like requesting an audience with the president to bring these 2 barrels to Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically Thomas Jefferson wrote back and said, thank you for your generosity, sir. We'll take 8. So like, so great, right? Offer them 2. He loved it. We'll take 8, right? But also on that front of our founding fathers and the importance of Newark cider made of the Harrison apple. So the oldest continuous run distillery in the country is a New Jersey-based distillery. I mean, the big distillery now is in Virginia, but they're a New Jersey family. They live in Colts. They're called the Laird family. Mm-hmm. Laird's Applejack was this really important. So what happened was 10 generations ago, when he got to New Jersey in the 1700s, there weren't grains here for him to distill to make his whiskey.
Because he was a Scottish man, yeah.
He was a Scottish whiskey maker, and there weren't grains. But the cider industry was so prevalent, he was taking the hard cider, distilling it to make this high-proof brandy called Applejack. Mm. The importance of Applejack was by adding it back to the cider, it fortified it. It kept it from spoiling. So Applejack became one of the primary exports out of New Jersey for like over 100 years. Well, according to the Laird family, the earliest cocktail in the country was a blend of Newark cider made of the Harrison apple and Laird's Applejack to make a thing called Cider Royal.
Which is truly one of the most delicious things.
It is. It's crazy good. And what was interesting was, Cider Royal was so coveted and so exclusive that this is what George Washington used to bribe the electorate for his first election in Virginia for the House of Burgess. So Jersey has a key role in getting Washington elected as president. And what this is so in 1970, there was a Virginian orchardist, a gentleman named Tom Burford, who sadly just passed away, and really important to our company and to that saving of the Harrison apple and everything. But Tom was commissioned, I think, in 1970 by Monticello, Jefferson's home, to reestablish the orchards there. And in the records, it showed they had Harrison. So he started looking for the Harrison apple in 1970. In 1978, he found one remaining Harrison apple tree in Livingston, New Jersey, took cuttings from that tree, brought that back to his orchard in Virginia. And in our work in finding Tom Burford is how we found the Harrison and then brought her back home to New Jersey. But anyway, so this cider royal that we now make is the original Harrison apple blended with Applejack, barrel aged, in Laird's oak, and to create this like beautiful fortified cider. And what I love about it is because we add the Applejack early in the fermentation process, it stops the fermentation, so you get more of the flavor of this apple. So all of those notes that we're tasting in this, and those caramel notes, those butterscotch notes, everything, that's just this apple. And we didn't know when we started hunting for this apple. And I forgot to mention that to be a cidery in New Jersey, we had to be a winery. And to be a winery, we needed to be producing at our site of fruit cultivation at a scale that we couldn't do in Newark. I had no intention of leaving Newark as a company.
Right.
But we had to buy a farm in order to have our orchards and our winery there. So we found land just as close to Newark as we could, but that had big enough land for our farm. And basically me and 20 gang members from Newark went out to Western New Jersey and Hunterdon County to start.
Gang members, you said.
Oh yeah. Some other guys from Newark, again, are formerly incarcerated men and women. And so to have a Montclair liberal Jew and 20 gang members show up in Western Jersey, which is now very much Trump territory, was, let's say, a lot for them to handle. But it actually was the most important thing that happened to our company, because not only did it let these men and women have sort of an opportunity to get out of the toxicity of the city, get away from gang violence, parole officers, all this stuff, but it also allowed me to be exposed to what I would consider an agrarian poverty, a rural poor, and seeing men and women coming out of tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq, suffering from all of the same issues that somebody coming out of Rahway State Prison was really so eye-opening to me that, even though I'm a Canadian who didn't serve, when I still hear people say to a veteran, "Oh, thank you for your service," where we've done fuck all to thank them. We've not addressed mental health crisis, family reorientation, healing, nothing, right? Because as a farmer, what I know is healing takes time. All transformation takes time,
right.
Whether it's in our bodies or in a relationship or the land. We don't value time in this country. Again, we value quarterly returns for shareholders and instant gratification. So whether you're coming out of Rahway State Prison or a tour of duty, to not have the time to heal, to build connectedness, to repair not only your own mental and physical health, but your relationship with others. So we ended up spending 2 years with a professor from the Earth Institute at Columbia, building a curriculum on things like conflict resolution, identity value, emotional intelligence, having farm managers trained in horticultural therapy, using healing the land as part of the healing process for the individuals, and creating a space where we could all come together and sort of, as we heal the land together, we also heal each other. And it, for us, as a farmer, what's known as a regenerative, we practice regenerative organic farming, which is about, to me, it comes down to sort of building life in the soil. And for me, that's about creating a system of microscopic organisms that work together. And as each organism in that system gets stronger, the whole system gets stronger. And for us, that's nature giving us a model for what community building should look like.
Exactly.
It shouldn't matter your color or your politics or your sexual orientation. What does our connectedness do to create resiliency and viability within the community, right? And all the way back to my political work, frustrated by this notion of individual success at the expense of everyone else. Again, the American dream of rugged individualism. But what I've learned more than anything is, well, the answer to that isn't socialism. It isn't, Bernie's version of collectivism. What it is, because what we've learned from nature, is a community of individuals right? So this idea
Right.
that each individual we work with, farmers and value-add producers and chefs and retailers, each of these individuals and their individual businesses only thrive by building a connectedness. So what we've done is we've literally, instead of trying to change our national food system, change our industrial food complex, every industrial farm in our country has contracts with private prisons, leasing them inmates at $10 a day. That's
Wait, just
slavery.
pause for one moment.
Yeah.
I don't think people really know what you're about to say. I think most of us are completely clueless about where our lettuce comes from and the idea of this. So if you could let's just take a moment back, and please, if you have questions, send them in. But talk about truly the kind of prison slavery that that brings vegetables to our table.
Yeah, well, I mean, it starts with the notion that our food system in this country is only rooted in high yield, right? Cheap costs and shelf life, right? We don't grow food in this country for nutritional value, right? And by the way food works is that the more life there is in the soil, the more nutrient rich the food is. The more nutrient rich it is, the more flavorful it is.
Right.
That's how food works. What we've done with that information in this country is just added those flavorants to processed foods. So there's a great book for your listeners who want to read a book about our food system. The Dorito Effect is an amazing book.
I love that book. It's a great book.
Amazing book. It talks about how we grow food for high yield, low cost, and pretty shelf life, no nutritional value. But it also talks about like ultra processed foods. So like Doritos, that were launched as a salted tortilla chip and didn't really resonate. Flavor scientists added MSG and other food spices, so triggers umami, and so your brain, when you're eating Doritos, thinks it's getting protein. Well, because there's no protein, you can't satiate the need, so you eat a whole bag of Doritos. That's how soda works with citric acid. That's how, like, all of these foods that have our brain thinking they're getting vitamins, minerals, protein, not coming, you eat a lot of it. The food that's supposed to have that stuff, like let's say a hydroponically grown strawberry by Driscoll, right, grown overseas. They can call it organic because there's no soil, so it's no regulatory oversight in China or Mexico where they're growing strawberries the size of your head that have no nutritional value and don't taste like strawberries. And I can't tell how many people come into our market every day and be like, why don't you have berries? Because I'm like, it's fucking December. What the fuck? I don't have kiwis. I don't have bananas. I don't have fucking strawberries. And people are like literally not understanding.
Don't understand.
So in addition to growing food in this way, so when you think about the need to lower the costs of food at industrial farms, right, that we're, again, just growing for high yield, low cost under our Monsanto model, private prisons, so every industrial farm in our country has contracts with prisons, with private prisons, leasing them inmates at $10 a day. So that contract, by the way, is with the prison. So that means the prisoners that are working on our farms have making less than $10 a day, to me, is a little slavey, right? And it's interesting to also look at that at a moment where we have decided to also deport our immigrant farm workers, right? So as we push away the immigrants who are clearly a threat to all of us, still in our jobs.
That's irony in case you guys aren't, but yeah.
That has required our private prison system right now to start increasing our prison populations at numbers that you could not imagine. Parole officers I know who would not talk about this publicly, their job is to get Black men back into prison right now as quick as possible. It's not about reorientation. It's not reintroducing them to our communities. It's not getting them jobs. It's not addressing mental health crises, right? We have a prison system designed to break these men down to nothing, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, nothing. So they're not a threat to us. Well, if we can get them back into prison, they can go pick some food for us, right? Especially as we don't have, migrant workers. It's disgusting. And not only are we not paying for our labor by using, glyphosate, so Monsanto's Roundup, to kill all of the pathogens in the soil, to have Roundup Ready seed, we have a food system that's primarily corn and soy based.
Right.
Farmed by industrial farms using massive amounts of water, massive amounts of land, grown by slaves to grow cheap, plentiful food. Well, if you're a vegan because you think it's more environmentally sound or it's healthier. Eating a Beyond Burger, which is 64 processed ingredients, your body can't break it down, and it's all corn and soy based, grown by Monsanto driven farms with slaves. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a vegan for your own spiritual reasons, ethical reasons, right. But eating locally, eating food that's grown the way we and our partner farms are trying to grow food, to me, is addressing all of the social, environmental, and cultural sort of chasms that are coming from our national food system. Why was I saying all that? I forget when we took a pause. Because I didn't want to get on my stupid soapbox because it should just be about booze and celebrate Thanksgiving and George Washington drinking alcohol. And also they smoked a lot of opium in those days, which we don't. Just for your records, we don't grow opium at the farm for opium.
Not yet.
Yeah.
No, that'll be next generation. So what you have done is really important out in Western New Jersey, out in Hunterdon County, in a place called Asbury. Somebody was asking where it is.
Yeah.
Asbury, New Jersey, not Asbury Park, which is what you probably know, but Asbury, New Jersey. And you have done a lot of work bringing back to life all these heirloom apples, like ones we haven't seen for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
One that like Burford found, this man, Tom Burford, found in Livingston, which if none of you know where Livingston, New Jersey is, it's right near us, because truly like the orchard spread from Newark all the way through to Livingston and here to Montclair. Livingston is like a nice suburb of New Jersey. Chris Christie grew up. You know who else grew up there? Jared Kushner grew up in Livingston, New Jersey.
You started with nice, and then you went into a nice suburb in New Jersey. And it's like, oh, Chris Christie and Jared Kushner.
Sorry,
Other nice. I'm sure Jeffrey Epstein spent time there. Who knows? I'm sure they were all in the same synagogue.
It used to be a nice mall.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was famous for its mall and the Kushners. So the idea that you could find one lone Harrison apple tree there, it like sparks hope in me. It's like, what else is hiding out there?
Yeah.
And so you guys have gone and reestablished these trees. You shared the trees with other farmers outside of this area. So it's not just like you guys owning the pie, as it were, or owning the trees.
That's I think that's really important because
then we'll get to tasting.
As Tom Burford, who's also known by Professor Apple. I mean, Tom was, I think, 8th generation orchardist. He took these heritage apples very seriously and the importance of cider in our country's history, or your country's. I'm American. But one of the key reasons why he was willing to allow us, just for him, as he was passing away, to sort of pass the baton of these heritage apples to us, was that he understood our mission wasn't about our ownership,
right?
But it was about bringing this back. And so to that end, I've given away tens of thousands of these trees for free to growers in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. And what we're doing by that is, well, first of all, we're spreading our environmental risk, right? What's happening with climate change, what might happen to our orchards in Pennsylvania, it's different than New York, so we needed that. 2, we're bringing back these heritage apples at a volume that now you can find cider throughout the country that's made with the Harrison apple, and it's a very special cider apple. But also starting on model of what it is to create financial viability for the growers. So the average farmer in our country only makes 15 cents on every food dollar. Second leading cause of death for farmers in our country after tractor accidents is suicide, because they can't compete against those industrial farms.
Right.
So we created contracts with growers. And again, this comes all the way back to my learning from Ben Cohen about the St. Albans Creamery Co-op and working with the dairy farmers in Vermont. We pay these farmers 5 times whatever the market rate is on their juice apples. So these are family farms, in upstate New York, in Pennsylvania, like Lancaster County, stuff, growing apples for like Mott's Apple Juice and Arizona Iced Tea and all these huge companies, all living below the poverty line, right, to grow commodity apples, right? There's 6 or 12 fucking apple varieties we have left in this country because they look pretty on a shelf.
Yeah.
We don't even grow food in this country for taste, let alone nutritional value. Even our Title I breakfast and lunch program is still only caloric based. It's not nutrient based. So as long as we're feeding them whatever it is, 1,400 calories a day, be donuts. Doesn't matter.
That's what they get.
Right. So our apple industry has gone away. Like a good cider, most cider in our country sucks because apples aren't grapes. and as winemakers, like we know that good wines, because grapes have high levels of acids and tannins and sugars. Apples are very, very low in acids and tannins and sugars, or at least the eating apples that we have. So bringing back these apples that fill your mouth with the coating from the tannins and the bright acidity in your gums. And this is what
makes my
creates
exciting
ciders. And so we're creating a viable revenue stream for these farmers. We're building out a community of growers. And by the way, that's led to the rest of our model as we build out our local food system or our regional food system, where we're doing our best to cut out the distributors, the middlemen that take like 70% of the retail dollar of not only food we're growing, but value add products. If you're growing tomatoes and I'm making a tomato sauce and I'm trying to get that on shelf at Whole Foods, a lot of middlemen between your tomatoes and that tomato sauce, and I ain't getting it on shelf against ragu. I just can't do it. There's 6 companies in our country that control 85% of the food on shelf. We're not going to fight that. 6
companies.
And even our ciders.
85%.
Yeah, our ciders. Like award-winning ciders. We only use local ingredients that we're foraging from the Pine Barrens and growing beach plums on the Jersey Shore to do shoreline restoration, and no concentrates, no added sugars, no preservatives. Nobody gives a fuck because nobody's climbing over a pallet of White Claw to get to a 4-pack of Ironbound, right? It's just not going to happen. So our goal or our model is, well, if we can build a local food system that connects farmers to those value-add producers, to those chefs, right? To this, I mean, it's interesting for the folks that can't see behind Marissa. I mean, she's got 2 bags of, So this is great. I mean, there's grains here from River Valley Community Grains that, I think we're all tuning in for cookies, right? So River Valley Community Grains is a group of ancient grain growers here in New Jersey, organic ancient grain growers. Popcorn. Oh, yeah. I thought that was their icorn flour, which is amazing.
No, I don't.
But what's neat about River Valley is that again, it's weird that it's also got a Montclair presence in this. A woman, a Montclair legend, Ruthie, who owned the restaurant here, Ruthie's, sold Ruthie's. So she had the money to build a mill, the Marksboro Mill, for this group of ancient grain growers. So now Lenny and Larry and Mikey and these guys are growing these organic ancient grains. Ruthie's milling them. And then bread partners of ours like Jed's Breads or Sal at Jersey Artisans are using those grains to make their breads. We're selling those in our markets at our farm and here in Montclair and in our restaurants. And that's a closed system that doesn't have middlemen, right? And we all know each other and we're all building this out. We're about to embark on building the same sort of integrated model for young farmers who want to be organic livestock feed farmers. So we'll have another mill for livestock feed, which is now going to not only like create more nutrient-rich feed for us as livestock farmers, but also because it's a local mill, the nutritional value is going to go through the roof because we don't have to pre-mill all of our grains, which means I can feed my livestock less, which is cheaper for me. They're getting better feed and more nutrients, so the meat that we're growing is better. All these little connected systems is how nature works, and that's the food system we're building. So that started with these apple growers, and that led us
and it's spread from there. And we are going to taste the cider.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I have recipes in my cookbook for a rye cookie, and I'm going to make them for Charles. I'm going to make them crispy because apparently he only really likes crispy chocolate chip cookies, which is, everyone's got a quirk. And he's entitled to it.
Is that like a diss, though? Is that
No. I love a crispy. Come on.
Okay, I just don't know if you followers are more the chewy kind.
No, people respect. We respect all taste and kind. But anyway, I have a ginger rye cookie, and I can't wait to use their flour. And the truth is, you guys can order from River Valley Community Grains. Yeah. This is not. I don't have discounts to offer you, but maybe I can work that out. But I'm just saying, this you can get it all online at River Valley Community Grains. And you can start making your own bread with these wonderful, really, truly wonderful grains. I baked a lot with them during COVID because that's where I would get flour, and they have spelt flour and regular old white flour. It's great.
Yeah. And honestly, this sounds silly, but like I literally I've wanted to do your podcast because you are one of these makers, one of these chefs, one of these people who are so interested in sort of where food comes from and working with local companies. So if we're growing the ginger, which we grow, if we're growing the ginger and it's their grains, their rye and the flour, and we've got, your cookie making magic, that connects all of us. Now, if those cookies, either your listeners are making them or those are for sale on shelf, that's another ecosystem, right? And just continues to build and grow and thrive. And so your business is thriving because River Valley's business is thriving, and it's the connectedness that makes those cookies so delicious.
And brings joy to people. And I see there are people here in the comments who are saying crispy is where it's at. Look,
thank you, everyone.
I'm going to get a couple glasses.
Yeah. I'm going to explain the 3 things that are here. We may only taste 2, but just because one is a gift for the Bates Thanksgiving table. But okay. So first we have the Newark cider. So this is primarily the Harrison apple, 2 other of the historic apples, the Campfield and the Grand Winkle. And this is a traditional cider where we're just, fermenting naturally and then putting it in bottle. And this changes every season because the apples change every season. So this is just celebrating this apple. So sometimes it's a little more tannic, sometimes it's a little sweeter, sometimes a little drier, but that's what seasonality looks like.
Right.
If you want consistency, buy more White Claw. Or, Angry Orchard, just choose some concentrate from
overseas. Over, because we can do this together.
Oh, nice.
Look at that. Let's see, now we're together. I've never
and because I'm close to the camera, I look taller than I think I am, but this is good.
Right. And now I look short.
Yeah. Here.
Okay.
See, this is actually real.
Yeah, this is very real.
Yeah.
I want you to know also that he brought his own opener. Okay, go on.
Then the next thing is the Harrison Sparkling Newark cider. We found a bottle from the 1700s that literally embossed that said Harrison's Sparkling Newark cider, which we just love. That's the cider that was the fake champagne. Oh, by the way, for your listeners to know, so I also live in Montclair. I live on a street called Irwin Park Road.
This is my favorite thing ever. This is the first time you met me.
Named after Jared Irwin Harrison, the grandnephew of Samuel Harrison, because as Newark developed in the 1700s, as Marissa was saying, that the cider industry was through the whole Newark water basin, which we are part of, those apples were grown where my house is, which I just think is crazy. We've lived in that house for 20 years. I didn't know anything about this apple, and then that it's just like...
and he lives in the house.
And I live in a house. So what this is, so the Harrison Sparkling is what's known as a pet nat. Pétillant naturel is it's an ancient method of making a sparkling wine that predates champagne by hundreds of years. And so we do a traditional fermentation out of the bottle. Then we add additional sugar in bottle. So we do an in-bottle fermentation that allows the yeast to just be doing more cool stuff. So it ends up with a very rustic, earthy champagne. And so I think this is what should be on the table at Thanksgiving, really as part of our American history. And then the third thing, so all with the same apple, but so different. And then the third thing is the Cider Royal, the fortified Harrison cider with the Applejack. So let's start with Newark cider.
Before we make people really jealous, they can actually buy this stuff online.
Yes.
And have it shipped to them unless they live in 5 different states don't allow it.
That's not our fault. We wish we were in all 50, but there's some states that are, whatever. But
someone did ask if Massachusetts is a state where you can, do you know off the top of your head?
It is. You can. And I love that because we're really anti Sam Adams, who makes Angry Orchard, and as a Canadian hockey player, I really hate the Boston Bruins. So anything we can do, it's actually funny. Our first trucks were a painting of a woodcut painting from the early colonial design of Sir Carteret, New Jersey's first governor, having Sam Adams over his lap, spanking him in his ass for his cloyingly sweet cider from Boston, saying only a massful would make cider from concentrate. So needless to say, Boston Brewing didn't let us keep those trucks out for very long. So, yes, please bring this to Massachusetts. I'll drive it there myself. Yes. Anyway.
Oh, thank you. Somebody posted where you can get on the site. Thank you, Sarah Graham. Shipping available to the following states. Thank you, Sarah.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
And obviously, we're available throughout New Jersey, and you can come to the farm at our tasting room. We only cook on open flame. Our chefs are farmers. It's a whole fun outing.
And they do things like, also things like groundhog cooking.
That's kind of on the DL. That's not for public consumption. Yeah, and it's really groundhogs during Squirrel Fest. But
Squirrel Fest.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Just like I started with a story about Eric and Unilever back in January, that it was Squirrel Fest. This may be the end of the company, but whatever. It's fun while it was lasting.
They don't really do it.
Right. Well, I mean, if I'm going to end with anybody, it's great to end with this lady right here. So,
so sorry.
And by the way, if your British husband were around, this is where I think a British person can honor American cider as being.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you guys.
Said on an apple cider farm. Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
It's so clean.
It's clean, right?
It's really clean and crisp.
And do you find that brightness kind of in your gums and in the back? And what I love is
and just like very small bubbles, very small.
Yeah. And what I like is a good wine always has a beginning and a middle and an end. The beginning of a bouquet and the middle, the mouthfeel matters in wine. And then, the finish matters. So often ciders can be very sweet up front, but they kind of fall off a cliff. There's nothing in the back. Or you don't get that middle mouthfeel. This apple is doing it all. Which is great. It's like a beautiful, almost like a Prosecco, where it's a full wine. Yeah.
This is as good as anything that...
It's literally as good as any cider.
Well, I also think it's fantastic with a meal because it's so crisp.
Yeah.
And kind of aids in... just the bubbles help with digestion, and I think this just sort of would complement all the foods of like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And
and I think I like, the way we do it is... starting with this in that early, and it goes beautifully with cheese, that early kind of course stuff, appetizer stuff, moving into the drier, earthier Harrison sparkling, this rustic. So, I don't know if you guys all know, like in winemaking or beer making, there's a wild yeast called Brettanomyces, Brett. Brett can give a wine or a beer or cider with these lovely barnyard earthy notes, right? Barnyard funk, we like to call it. The thing about Brett is it is a wild yeast and it can go wild. And wines and ciders and beers with Brett that get kind of out of control, that delicious barnyard funk, wet straw notes can go to wet horse blanket, then manure, and then dog shit. And sad to say, we have gotten to dog shit way too many times before. But when you're letting the yeast do what it does, so there is some earthiness.
There is
that's not necessarily in the Newark, which is so bright. This is almost like, I think of the Newark cider as sort of like in music, it's like at the top higher notes and treble. This has all the bassy, earthy notes. So I love that. But then
this is so good.
But this is so as a winery, we're only allowed to make something up to 18.5% alcohol. And that's where yeast dies. In wine, a fortified wine would be a port or a vermouth, or in Italy, an Amaro. And we do a lot of those at Ironbound in ciders. So we have a cider that drinks like a Campari, and we called it Campalic because Cam is our head winemaker, Alec is our head farmer, and it's a long journey for us to think about how to make this. And Lemon Bee Brush says over 25 different botanicals that we grow that drinks like a digestif, and it's really lovely. But the Cider Royal is just the apple, and this I don't know. This, after a journey of so many years, I mean, we started looking for the Harrison apple in 2012. It's 2026. We're about to have this coming year our first full harvest of Harrisons at our farm. So that's a long journey to get an apple. But when you taste this and you realize, okay, maybe it was worth that time.
And someone asked if we are tasting the Newark, and what I was tasting, this was the Newark, but it's very delicate, fine bubbles.
It just wasn't the full 750 ml. But see, this is a cork and cage bottle for the Harrison. So we didn't taste Harrison because it's 10:30 in the morning, and I think a full bottle of 750 milliliters of cider may be a lot for breakfast. Not for me as a Canadian, but I'm just worried about.
I'm just from New Jersey.
Yeah. So, but now we're drinking the Cider Royal. So this is an after dinner. This goes with dessert at your Thanksgiving table.
But this, cheers.
Sure.
This truly, I don't want to sound like a pretentious twat.
Oh, wait.
Or more than you.
One. I poured you one and I didn't get one.
See?
You're excited.
So I'll just talk like a pretentious twat for a moment. But it truly has the most pure butterscotch note I've smelled.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It's just, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you can't taste this with me, but, I've been, doing cooking on a podcast without images for a long time. And so I will use my words. And the note of butterscotch is so pure. But now I'm going to taste it. That's really, really, it's such like the apple flavor goes across the whole thing while you get all these other notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really warm. And I'm a big dessert person. This would be fine for dessert just on its own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Maybe with a little cookie.
Yeah, little cookie.
But
I would even eat a chewy cookie with this.
Wow.
Of course. I am not, let me just make it clear to your listeners. I am not anti-chewy cookie. I'm just, I'm pro-cookie.
Right.
But I had a choice.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. We get it.
Do I sound a little defensive here?
It sounds really defensive.
Yeah.
But I think you just want us to be happy.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, gosh,
I would dab this behind my ears.
Marissa, I talk about this a lot, and
I'm wearing it as a cologne.
As a cologne.
Yeah.
No, but I think about all of you, your community of bakers, this notion of not only so the joy in baking, the joy in making stuff.
That's what I was going to talk about. Joy.
Being present in the moment is where joy is. And baking or making this or farming, you're very present in the moment. But then the joy of sharing those things, of breaking bread together, of eating that cookie, especially if you made the cookies and you can tell the story, it was with these grains from these folks and ginger from these folks and blah, 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 blah. The joy that comes from that. And I don't take this lightly when I've been, most of this conversation, I almost want to apologize to your community because I was talking about a lot of the negative shit. Slaves and commercial food and blah, 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 blah. That's not where the work is. The work is in the joy. The work is by creating connectedness with each other and with our food. That joy gives people the strength to face the things that they need to face, And I think right now we're all pretty scared and we're all pretty anxious. And my job, our job, your job, our job is not to reinforce that fear. We go around and say, but Trump can't do that. It's against the Constitution. Really? Doing it. Doesn't matter. I can't do anything about that.
Right.
But when we create joy and we create connectedness with each other, we're not scared about that stuff anymore.
Right.
And it gives us the strength to do the work. And I love the idea that what you do and what I do and what all of your fans are tuning in for so they can do is just creating a space of loving kindness, a space of joyous connectedness. And it's funny, I always talk about being Canadian and how much being Canadian is important, except for Thanksgiving. This is my most favorite American thing ever. And it's not political and it's not faith-based. It's just an usness, a sense of community, a sense of family around a table.
Yep. It was my father, an immigrant's favorite holiday. It's my favorite holiday. I mean, it does revolve around food, but it also revolves around people.
Yeah, the usness of around food, because food is what brings us together.
And you were also saying this, I mean, maybe everybody else already has this on board. For me, it was this idea like when you're sharing joy with others and you're kind of experiencing joy, you have to be in the present moment.
Mm.
Right. And it keeps us from living off the fight or flight that I think is sort of so many of us has been eating away at many of us. This sort of like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important. And
Yeah.
and I know from so many of the people who have baked my recipes, I know it from my own experience that the idea of being in the moment and then sharing is really like as close to like happiness as we can share right now. It's really hard, and it goes across the aisle.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying it's not like total kumbaya,
but it is in that. Oh gosh, because it comes from a place of openness, a space of loving kindness. When you are cooking for other people, the joy also comes, I think, from serving those people with no expectation of anything in return. Right? That's the trick.
And in fact, I don't kind of want anything in return.
Right. Like if you're giving of yourself because you want the credit or the noogies or the accolades, that's not giving of yourself. That's about your own ego. But when you're just baking cookies for people and that smile is them receiving that, it's not like they, that's it. That is what true happiness, joy, connectedness, really when we understand that, and as parents, I think we all get this too, like the service of others with no expectation of anything in return is where real joy is. And I think we all get a little stuck in our own egos. Lord knows, I think that's clear to this audience. But I would say the thing that I have learned most in our work, and again, this is as a farmer, not as building the cider company or the restaurants or the markets, just as a farmer, is this idea of being humbled by the work and quieted by the work. Quietness to the work. When I'm farming, when I'm in the soil, that's quiet, present work. And you feel the connectedness. And whether you're religious and you say that's where God is, or you're understanding it from a scientific perspective, or you're just feeling it, that's the power of it. And I think I was sharing with Marissa that, one of the favorite things I've done with my whole life is the Princeton Theological Seminary, very famous Presbyterian seminary, has built a farm there that we've been part of supporting over the 10 years and called it the Farminary because it's a farm at the seminary. And we just had the 10th anniversary of the Farminary some weeks ago. And the celebration of this farm, I swear I thought that I was like high and from the joy. Nate Stuckey, the minister that runs the farm,
it was a natural high.
Also said it might have been the cider that made us feel high, but because we drank a lot. But no, it was this sense of just pure celebration. And then people that had gone to the seminary that came back for the 10th anniversary sharing with us that they never truly felt God until they were working in the soil, and they found God in nature, and it changed their mission as theologians, as ministers, as people that faith-based people. It was the connectedness to land. It was connectedness to the earth that allowed them to connect with other people. And I think people are yearning for connectedness these days. And again, weirdly, that's what Thanksgiving is about. It's just the connections. And so I love that whether it's your cookies or our cider or whatever else is bringing us around the table together just to be each other. My recommendation is don't talk politics. Don't talk about where your kid's going to college or not going to college. It's just being together and eating. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I thank you so much for being here. Somebody did have Janet says, my dad used to make cider. We all had to participate in making it, but it mostly tasted horrible.
Yeah.
Not you. Now you've gotten me so curious. This sounds amazing. What a great gift for my brothers to ponder how my dad couldn't make it taste as good as yours.
Yeah. It's hard because people think like, oh, I can just ferment this stuff with yeast. And it is funny. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I'm glad you have the memory of you making shitty cider with your dad. Actually, it's funny. My Polish grandmother, old, like lived with us. And we used to, when I was very, very little, I would go to the basement with her and make cherry wine, known as Vishnik. And I was pretty hammered, I think, at 5, 6, 7 years old, because she was this crazy old lady. But the idea of making in a crock pot old cherry wine, I haven't thought about that in probably 50 years until we heard about Janet's shitty cider memories. But yeah, I think the cider was probably better than the cherry wine. But yeah,
I think you've moved on from this. Has definitely moved on from the cherry wine by a lot.
Only my grandmother could taste it. Yes.
Did she loved it?
Yeah, she did. She was nuts. Yeah.
Maybe it.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Other memories.
We'll talk about it for another reason, for another day. I thank you all for being here today. I'm just going to repeat one more time. Ironbound Cider, Ironbound Farm. What's the URL?
Ironboundfarm.com. Or ironboundhardcider.com. Or there's lots of other ones, but no, ironboundfarm.com. That's where you can find the cider, and then we're available.
I'll put it in the proverbial show notes. And I'll also include River Valley Community Grains. I don't know if you'll get the stuff by Thanksgiving, but if you want to make bread for the holidays or something, or just, cookies, it's a great resource. And Viva New Jersey. That's what I say. Viva New Jersey, because I think ever since I started writing for the New York Times about restaurants in New Jersey, I have developed an immense pride in New Jersey, and we are the butt of everyone's jokes. I don't mind it, but there's a lot of good stuff going on.
And if you are in New Jersey, to keep that plug going, we developed since the pandemic out where we are in Hunterdon County. It's called the 579 Food and Farm Trail. So Route 579, where our farm is, was the road that led from all of the farms directly to Trenton. And so we have there's a map, Hunterdon County 579 Trail, the 579 Trail, that shows the restaurants and the farms and the wineries. And we have some of the best restaurants now in the country. Fin Bar in Frenchtown. Cal was a head chef at Chez Panisse. Stuart Surgeonsville Inn with Sean Gray from Momofuku. All these amazing chefs have come home to New Jersey using local ingredients from local farms and stuff. So a day out, if you are in New Jersey and you want to come out to Hunterdon County, it's like we're the new, not douchey Hudson Valley, like Jersey, man, a little busted and a little whatever, but the food is amazing. The people are amazing. And so, stop going to Hudson Valley.
Yeah. And I'm going to make t-shirts that say the new, not douchey Hudson Valley. And I'd wear that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. If you haven't, Jersey Pizza is the absolute best. Okay.
Can I come back on for Jersey Pizza just as a consumer? Because I care about it.
No, we care about it. Maybe we'll get Dan Richer on, and it'll be fantastic. Thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, send them to me on Substack. Support your local Substacker and your local farm. Thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.